Yo, what's up? It's Jason. I'm back and I'm finally launching this series. Well, I'm going to attempt it anyway. We'll see if it makes the cut. But yeah, a while back I started doing best ofs per year, and I will put a link down in the description below if you want to go check out some of those. I did the 70s, I did the 80s, I did some 2010s. In fact, started probably over a year ago on Richard's channel, Calvin Wazoo. He was doing every Sunday, not necessarily a best of, but was like everything that was released per year. So I participated in a lot of those too. I didn't do a lot of the 90s, sort of getting around to it now. Always on a 90s nostalgia tip, of course. And I've pulled together what I think is the best top 12 in my collection of a 1990. Now, there is going to be a big, giant exception in this thing, sitting very high in the list, actually, where I'm going to break the rules. But hey, sue me. I guess if you want to get your money back, there is no money back guarantee on this on the VC, but we'll get to it when we get there. Generally, the rule has been got to have it in the collection. I have something. Not exactly, but I have something. I've also done a lot of the videos just showing vinyl only, but the later years I decided to open up to other formats as well. So anyway, enough jibber jabber. I want to get into the best of 1990 to kick off this decade properly. My number 12 record or release for 1990, I'm going to go with this one, Cryptic Slaughter's Speak Your Peace. This is the fourth and last album by Cryptic Slaughter, and a pretty good one overall. Not their best, not as good as the first two albums. They went through a lot of tumult in the preceding album before this, 1988's Stream of Consciousness, I think it's called. It's the one album I don't have actually by Cryptic Slaughter. And afterwards, I think on tour, the lead singer left. The band left actually, like the founding member, I think. What is it, Les Evans on guitar. He moved all the way to Oregon from California and regrouped and basically reformed an entire new version of Cryptic Slaughter for this album. But it's still thrash, it's still crossover. It's maybe a little less hardcore than the first couple of albums. Convicted and Money Talks, of course, are their best. And they rank pretty high in my best of 80s list as well. So I'm pretty new to this album, so it kind of hit at the bottom of this top 12. But it is a good banger, good thrash record. Cryptic Slaughter are amazing. And this is a Radiation Records reissue, in case you're wondering. Out of Italy, they do a lot of great reissues of hardcore and etc. So number 12 for me is Cryptic Slaughter. Number 11, got to go with some hip-hop. Of course, in 1990, I was all about the hip-hop. I had already been into punk, hardcore, metal as a kid, even listened to some experimental stuff, and really got into hip-hop late, like 88, 89, 90s, then got into some grunge as well. But man, the golden era of hip-hop from 86 to 93, I was all about that. I had all the stuff on cassette, some vinyl as well, because I was DJing. And this record in 1990 was definitely a classic. Kool Rap and Polo's Wanted Dead or Alive, one of the top lisp rappers in hip-hop, Kool Rap, along with E-double-A of EPMD, I would say. But yeah, this is a really great album, probably their best album. Road to Riches came out before that, which I think was their debut, and then this would be the second album. Road to Riches is really good too. It's got Poison on it, a lot of good tracks. But it's very cold chillin', very Marley Marl production. On this one, they kind of branch out with some other producers on here. You got Large Professors on here, track produced by Biz Markie, Kool V, Kool Rap. I mean, it's still the cold chillin' family, but you can tell it's just a little bit more deep and developed with the samples and the production on here. I mean, this is the one I think that has that samples Billy Joel's Stiletto, I think on Streets of New York, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, which is a really dope track. Talk Like Sex was kind of a single off this. Erase Racism, big track on this one with Big Daddy Kane and Biz Markie on it as well. That was a fun track. Got DJ tracks on here too, Bad to the Bone. But yeah, number 11, going with Kool G Rap and Polo, Wanted Dead or Alive. I didn't have the vinyl, I don't think, when I was younger. I think I had it on cassette, but picked up the vinyl not long ago and glad that I did. I don't know if it's been reissued or not, but next up, we've got a CD to show, and one of my favorite bands of the last just 3 years. I never really discovered them. Well, definitely not back in the day. I saw them in concert though before the pandemic. I want to say like maybe 2016 or so. Blew me away. Loved them from that day on. I'm talking about Napalm Death. Killer grindcore. This one, of course, leaning more into death metal at this point. This is like what, their third album. It's a more consistent approach than the last album before this, the From Enslavement one, which seems to kind of go back and forth between death metal and grindcore. This one's got the full package. It's also got Scotty Burns on the production, and you're going to hear that name a few more times in this top 10, I think, before this video is done. This is a reissue on Earache, but yeah, basically the boys went all the way from England over to Florida, do some production work with, some recording work with Scott Burns, who's just legendary for death metal, as you will see with other releases. Yeah, Barney's on vocals. I've got another Barney record in this top 10, so stay tuned for that. The guy was busy that year. Just excellent overall. Good album. I guess it was a little bit critiqued by some of the fans at the time. Some people even thought it was a sellout record by Napalm Death. I don't think I would ever go that far with Napalm, but that is my number 10, rounding out the 10. Number 9. I just want to make sure I am following my numbers. Number 9, we're not going very far. We're not going very far from Florida at this point, and I think also produced by Scott Burns again on this one. This is Deicide's debut album. What a heavy, intense band. I like Napalm Death more than Deicide, I would have to say, but this album is definitely ranking above Harmony Corruption, in case I didn't say that in the last one that I showed. Yeah, the debut from Deicide, heavy-ass album. Myself, it even took me a little bit to get into this sucker, headbanger and all, but yeah, it's pretty brutal. Vocals are brutal. Early death metal here. Florida style. It's actually the only Deicide I have in my collection. Yeah. So, Deicide. My number 9. I better not go on and on about every single record because we'll never get this video done. But number 8. Before I get back into some hip-hop, and it's coming on strong soon, got to do a little bit more death metal. Early death metal. UK grind / death metal, actually. And another band that's completely new to me in the last couple years, but on Peaceful. This is Prophecy of Doom. I don't know if you guys can see that properly, but... And, of course, my case is a little bit broken as well. But yeah, this got a reissue treatment here by Peaceful. Sick album. Just a strange, kind of darkened path album. It's called Acknowledge the Confusion Master. And the vocals on this, you've got to hear. They're just totally bizarre. They sound extremely horror movie-esque. Pretty wild original vocal, I gotta say, on this thing. I gotta give it up to Barney as well on vocals. I mean, all this death metal stuff has really killer vocals, but this one's pretty weird, extra creepy, I think, extra horror movie-esque. I don't think it's produced by Scott Burns, but this is some UK grind and death, and I'm putting that at number 8 here for this list, this mega list that we got going on here. Number 7, let me just check here. Yeah, number 7, I'm gonna go with some more death metal. Surprise, surprise, 1990 seems to be like the birth of death metal, although late 80s, and even before that if you include Possessed for influence on death metal. Here he is again, Mr. Barnes, Mark Barney Greenway on vocals. The guy has been as busy as hell in this year. This is a Benediction album their debut album. Subconscious Terror. Man, this is a killer record. I first got introduced to Benediction from like the most recent thing that they put out in 2020 with obviously a different vocalist. They had about 3 different vocalists over the years. And I was like, yeah, it's okay, you know, just kind of modern production. Then I got these reissue CDs from Back on Black. We all know Back on Black for all the UK reissues, etc. they do. But hey, they make it available, and it sounds pretty killer to me. So yeah, this record, absolute banger. I play this a lot. It actually should be higher in the list maybe, but I decided to pull it for now for number 7. Barney's vocals on this, extra kind of weird compared to even the Harmony Corruption. Like he's really doing his kind of like talking style vocals. Again, very horror movie-esque. Just one of my favorite vocal performances in death metal. Somewhat unusual. A great album overall. Just consistent plays since I got that one. I also got the other, I think the next album, the second album, reissued as well. I got on CD. Number 6, I'm going to go back to Florida. We're getting all the death metal out of the way here. And then there's going to be some hip-hop in the top 5 as well as other stuff. But back to Florida, Death Metal Kings Legends, their second album. I got to go with Obituary, Cause of Death. I was blown away by this record when I first heard it, and it was not long ago, because I again, a lot of these bands I missed. By 1990, I wasn't really listening to hard, heavy stuff anymore, but man, I missed out. But now I've got it. So yeah, this is produced by Scott Burns. Reissue here on Roadrunner Records. This one, of course, has the cover of Circle of Tyrants. Love Celtic Frost, and I really like their version of it too. It's pretty damn cool. There's a picture of the guys there. Sepultura t-shirts. I was gonna say a Napalm Death shirt, but I think a Godflesh shirt in there. Yeah, I seen Obituary perform once. Really cool concert. Talked about it the other day. I think it was 2016-ish. Battle of the Bays tour. Obituary versus Exodus and Power Trip were also on the bill. That was a sick tour. That was my introduction to Obituary, believe it or not. So modern day Obituary, but this stuff is Stone Cold classic. Definitely my fave from them. So that's number 6. That's just outside the top 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I'm gonna go for number 5, a hip hop classic as well, and a debut album in 1990. Gotta go with Tribe Called Quest, People's Instinctive Travels, and The Paths of Rhythm. Long mouthful title, but yeah, when this album dropped, you better believe everybody was picking it up back then. Who was into hip hop. I'm thinking now, like, yeah, this came out after De La Soul's debut, but they're all part of that same family. De La Soul, Jungle Brothers, Tribe Called Quest. We first saw them, you know, with the videos. I Left My Wallet in El Segundo was the lead-off single. They had Luck of Lucian, Bonita Applebum, Can I Kick It was a video, big hit. Ham and Eggs, Mr. Muhammad. I mean, all the tracks on this album are killer. Golden era hip hop. This is a reissue of some sort on Jive. And I say some sort because it may be a boot. I feel like it's a bit of a boot. Some of the print is kind of foggy. And it has like sort of a fake hype sticker too that's not actually a sticker. Got this a while back on vinyl, and it works for me. Sure, it's been reissued, a good $60 version out there maybe. But at the time I probably got this for like $20. Got some of the singles too from Tribe. Don't listen to Tribe that often anymore, but back in the day when this came out, it was solid listening over and over and over again. Great delivery. Seen some of the members live. I've seen Fife actually live once before he passed. So that's my number 5. Number 4, I'm going to go back to metal territory and an album that I was definitely into in 1990. Even though I was all about hip-hop pretty much, I still could not resist. When we saw the video for this, it brought me right back. I, of course, love this band when I first heard them back in the early 80s, mid-80s. talking about Slayer and this album when they came out with this Seasons of the Abyss. Wow. It was on Def Jam still at the time. And I think Kerry King still had his hair. And Jeff Hanneman was still alive. Camaraya could still bang his head. And Dave Lombardo was back on drums. Or maybe this was the last album before he left, I guess. Dispute over pay and other issues. But man, what a killer album. I still love this album. Some people don't like it as much, I guess, because for them, Rain in Blood or the earlier stuff always holds the top spot. Also for me, I really like, Show No Mercy. I like the early albums quite a bit too, but this ranks pretty high up as well. Just War Ensemble and Season in the Abyss, the title track. Some really killer tracks on this. Very heavy album. I remember rocking this. Picked it up back in the day. Had to get that. Number 3. Man, these next 3. Well, number 1 is definitely at number 1. But number 2 and 3 could be kind of interchangeable. But I'm going to go the way I'm going. I'm going to go with number 3 as it is, because I don't listen to it that often. But man, is it ever a total killer album, standout album. This sucker, Paris. The Devil Made Me Do It. Wow, what a debut from this guy out of Oakland, California. This is the cassette version. This is what we had back in the day. Besides music videos, we had the cassette. It was an import. I think it was on Priority Records or Tommy Boy, of all things. He also had his own label called Scarface, and then Gorilla Funk Recordings. But yeah, Paris. When this guy came out, we didn't know who the hell this guy was, where he's come from, but it was like basically heavier and more political than Public Enemy and Ice Cube at the time. So yeah, The Devil Made Me Do It. Absolutely sick video. I'll put a link to this video. You gotta check it out. Panther Power was on this. Of course, the debut single too that broke him out of the gate, Break the Grip of Shame. Single of which looks like this actually. Just different title on the bottom. This is a deluxe reissue, came out on Groove Attack out of Germany a while back, definitely over 10 years ago, I'd say. Double LP, but yeah, some extra mixes on here basically. But yeah, Paris, this is heavy hitting, more in the funk style too, of some of the samples. Just a banger of a record. Pretty good political stuff too. Calling out the hypocrisy of the U.S. Yeah, Paris, that's my number 3. Number 2, going a little bit more smoother on the hip-hop style, but an album that has been a fave since I first heard it. Still a fave, still love rocking this. And I was super happy recently to get this on vinyl finally, because I always had it on cassette, CD. Above the Law's debut, Living Like Hustlers. Man, this is a dope album, if ever there was one. This is produced by Dr. Dre, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, it's on Ruthless Records. It's got that whole West Coast laid back, loads of funk and soul samples, redone, rejigged. Lots of guest appearances on here too. Looks like Cold 187, Eazy-E, MC Ren, Dr. Dre, all dropping in. Some really great singles and tracks on this one. Living Like Hustlers, which I played in some of my mixes. Murder Rap, Untouchable. Freedom of Speech, also a really cool track too. Almost everything explicit lyrics, but a couple tracks I think you could get away on the radio. Not that I'm not sure they got a lot of radio play, but Above the Law, I think they might have had one more album after this and then went splits. And in fact, some of the members may have passed away by now, but wow, it was a really great band, great album. That's why I put it up so high. This is like number 2 for 1990. Now we're going to get into the ultimate controversial part of the video. If Deicide and Napalm Death wasn't controversial enough, this is where I got to break my own rules, because I don't have the album to show, and I've been actually delaying this video for like 100 years, and I just want to get on with the whole series. So I don't have a copy of this, and it's my number 1, but I do have a couple singles to show. It's absolutely got to be the number 1, and that's going to be a little UK band called Depeche Mode. Because in 1990 they put out Violator, So my number one for 1990 is Depeche Mode's Violator. This is one of the singles from it. Enjoy the Silence. This is another single from it. Policy of Truth. I think I've got some other singles too if I went digging deep. But of course came out on like Mute Records. I think it's their best album. A lot of people think it's their best album. And for some reason I don't seem to have a copy of it. I know I have a copy of the CD somewhere, but I cannot seem to find it. Couldn't find a copy locally either. Been bugging me for days and days. So, an anomaly in the series, I know. Disappointing, let down maybe. I'll put a link to it. I don't even need to put a link to it. Everybody knows Violator. If you don't remember Violator, then you weren't of a certain age, I guess, in 1990. But that album was just top to bottom. Every track on that is stellar. Very well produced. And it's my number one pick for 1990. So let me know what you guys think for 1990. What were some of your faves? Obviously, I lean heavily on metal and hip-hop. There's some more techno coming soon. I may actually do a top singles of each year, too, because I'm heavily leaning towards albums and sometimes EPs in these top 10s. I'll see you guys in the next one.